Alrighty, hey everybody, welcome to the FreeMind podcast. We have Andy Shirk of Beer Nuts here and Churshin, my co-host. How you doing today, Andy? Thanks for joining us today.
Doing well. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Hey, tell us a little bit about where Beer Nuts is located and kind of a little bit of the elevator pitch for what the business is all about and what you guys do.
So we are located in Bloomington, Illinois, part of the Twin Cities of Bloomington and Normal, Illinois, right in the middle of the state, not Chicago, not St. Louis, but right between on old Route 66. But we've been here since the beginning of Beer Nuts, and even prior to us being Beer Nuts. Our story goes all the way back to 1937. If you want me to get into it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so going back to 1937, there's a guy, I don't even know his name, who owned a store in downtown Bloomington that sold, it was kind of a confectionery store, sold candy, sold like caramel apples and an orange drink, and then these Redskin peanuts that they made on site. My great uncle happened to work there, and this guy was ready to sell the business or close it. My great uncle figured out a way to buy it with the help of my great grandfather. And so he bought it and ran it a little bit, and then got married. He was about 18, 19 when he bought it, and got married, was on his honeymoon in Chicago, got in a car accident and passed away. And so at that time, my grandpa was in Southern California with his other brother. My grandpa was at USC playing basketball, and so he left, came home, and the family sort of, with the help of his dad and some others, sort of kind of kept the business going, and for a number of years. And as you know, we got into Depression times, it sort of became a restaurant, but they always had that Redskin peanut that they were sort of known for. There's a movie theater across the street. People would walk down, from the restaurant. They blow out the smell of the peanuts onto the street. People would stop in and get their snacks there before they go into the movie theater. And till about 1952 is when Beer Nuts actually started. But before that, there's a guy named Eldridge Brewster, who's a potato chip distributor for a company called, I think it was Blue Star Potato Chips. And he'd come in and say, look, I think I could sell these. And my grandpa was not too interested in taking on more risk. The business was supporting 4 families at that time, just out of this one sort of restaurant. And but over time, he convinced them to give it a try. And so Brewster, he'd pack them up in sort of cellophane type bags, and Brewster would take them on his route around town, around Central Illinois, and they did pretty well. So they're called Shirk's Glazed Nuts, which turned into some funny nicknames for me growing up. But they had got a lot of traction at bars and taverns, and so they kind of came back to the table and said, all right, we gotta call this something different. We need to incorporate. We need to shut down the restaurant. We need to be in the snack business. And so they sat around. They said, we can call this Bever Nuts. They taste good with beverages, nice broad appeal, or we can say Beer Nuts and be a little more specific. And I would say, thank God they chose Beer Nuts and trademarked it, because that's served us pretty well in good times and in bad over the last 69 years. So, but that's when things started to take off. The Shirks did the manufacturing, the Brewsters did sales, marketing, and distribution. And so they moved from one location downtown Bloomington, across downtown, which is only like a couple blocks away, where they lasted about 6 months before they moved back across downtown into a bigger building, where they added on I'm told 22 times. That only got them to, I think, about 35,000 square feet. Until 1974, they moved where I am right now, we're about 100,000 square feet, in what was a dairy, and they built sort of the factory around the dairy, and the dairy's the office. But from there, so we had Beer Nuts original peanuts. Brewster was doing routes. There were trucks running. The story I get is people, our salesman would come in, or Brewster salesman would come in Sunday night, load their trucks, get out on the road, and they come back Friday night, Saturday morning, with receipts and orders, and all the samples would be gone. And so that just sort of grew in bigger and bigger circles outside of Central Illinois into the surrounding states. And then my grandpa's brother set up the West Coast as he was out there, and we sort of took off. As things grew into the 70s, we added cashew product, which I still think is the world's best cashew, even though I have a major bias. It's an incredible product. And then we added some almonds as well. So at that point, we said we were 3 SKUs for 30 years after that, which probably wasn't a good thing, but that's what we did. Into the 80s, we took on, Anheuser-Busch came out with the Eagle Snacks, and so we battled Eagle Snacks and the honey roasted peanut competition. We actually, as I say, back in the 70s, we had to defend our name and our process against a copycat, and I think it's case law now for law school.
Right.
But
Wow.
I always hear about it every 5 years. Someone brings it my way. But going into the 2000s or into the 90s, we sort of 90s into the 2000s, we just kind of did our thing and didn't change a whole lot. And in retrospect, that wasn't a good thing. But into the early 2000s, there was enough need to make some changes that we got into doing mixed products, using a co-packer, and doing products outside of our own facility. And that really helped our business grow again, really taken off in about 2008, 2009, I should say 2011, 2012. And we've been growing ever since. So we've gone through, we had 3 products for a while, and we have 18 different products. Obviously, just a few of them are a majority of the business, but we continue to try to innovate and bring new fun things under the Beer Nuts name. But that's the short version, I think, of a long story. I'm guessing you have some questions out of that.
Andy, do you refer back to those 70s and the trials with Budweiser as the great nut wars of the 70s? There's like flags and you're like, this is where we persevered. You're almost looking back like it was a civil war or something.
I feel like that's a good marketing opportunity. They can make some T-shirts out of that, or everybody asking, what are the great nut wars? Yeah. But it was a challenging time, and really got us, worried of, how does our unique process and our unique flavor stay unique or differentiate? And that's where the brand really helped us, I think, survive a challenging time. So
is Brewster's the potato chips that used to come in like that metal tin, like the it was like a big, like, and you pop up and there was potato chips in there? Is that what that was?
The brand wasn't Brewster's, but the brand that Brewster sold was, I think, Blue Star or something like that. But I don't know. I think it was bags, but I don't know, because he helped my grandpa figure out how to pack our product, and the packaging was coming along just enough that we were able to nitrogen flush it so that we had some shelf life. So our product's pretty terrible otherwise.
Oh, so did you continue to use them as like your distribution network as you grew, or did you branch out and say we could do this by ourselves? I mean, was it like something where you were like, we're going to continue to be partners, or you're like, you know what, this would be much more effective if we had our own distribution network and we set this up ourselves?
They were partners until 1980, 50 partners. And so there's the Shirk Products Manufacturing, and there's Brewster, I don't know what they're called, and then there was Beer Nuts Incorporated. Both were 50-50 owners of Beer Nuts.
Wow.
And so there was, at that point in 1980, there was a big drought, and I think we were only able to fill about a quarter of our orders that year, is the story I get. And they had some financial issues as a result. They weren't positioned well for that, and so we bought them out at that point.
Oh, wow.
And so, but I'm told it was, definitely a rocky relationship at times, but at the same time, the Shirks wouldn't be here without the Brewsters. So,
right.
And so it's, we're thankful for everything they've done and how they helped us continue on Beer Nuts. So, yeah.
For where you are, as far as in distribution, you are in every single state, I assume, at this point?
Yeah. Yep.
Are there any regionals or regionality, excuse me, that really kind of gravitate towards your product more so than others? I know, because obviously, like, certain snack foods kind of, in certain pockets of the country.
Yeah. We're strong in Midwest, just being close to home. And it's, our distribution strong here as well. West Coast has always been strong, thanks to my Uncle Ed going back, a long time. But and there's some pockets in New England, but we're pretty weak in the Southeast. And in Texas, we're not as strong as we should be, although that's changing pretty quick right now. But I think I've said a lot, we've kind of sat on our hands from maybe the 80s on, from a innovation and marketing standpoint. And so we've missed a generation or two of identifying our brand beer nuts as not just a generic term. And so that's sort of the challenge we have ahead of us, is how do we reintroduce our brand and our product line as something unique and not just a generic term. But yeah, there's definitely pockets, and we're working pretty hard to, eliminate those pockets. So
what were the challenges when you talk about your company, and we said this in the beginning, it was pretty unique where it's been in your family for so long. Did you find that you were you kind of sat on your hands, was getting that innovation? Did you find pushback from your family? Like, this is just the way we did it, Andy. Like, we're not trying to push the limits. Like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Did you find that there was a challenge being like that third generation of saying, look, I think we got to grow. I think we have to do it. Like, were there challenges in trying to expand the business, and because of that longevity of your family?
It's been an incredible challenge. It's I think, so I started my career post-college in commercial real estate and was selling enclosed malls and shopping centers all over the country until 2008. Market changed. My dad said, hey, come back and help me out a little bit, and I'm still here. But yeah, I found it really quick. I actually started in a different enterprise, or a different part of our family kind of enterprise, and hit ceilings within 6 months of, we don't want to do it that way. And yeah, I know you learned this stuff in real estate, but this is how we're going to do it. And so I just kept moving on to different stuff. And so I started in agriculture, and then got into beer nuts, and it happened a lot, and it's still happening today. And so we're, it's led to, it's led to family firings. Like I've terminated a sibling. It's led to massive disagreements between my dad and I, who I love very much, but from a business perspective, we look at things very differently. And generationally, he's second generation. His goal, as he stated, was to not screw it up. And that's not a sustainable mentality. And so, riding that, the downside of the wave of the don't screw it up era, created the opportunity for me and the next generation to really kind of grow the business again. And we've been able to do that, but with a ton of resistance and definitely some scars within the family as a result.
Maybe the silver lining to, I don't mean to interrupt. Maybe the silver lining to that, though, is like you were forced to kind of look at all aspects of that family business and seeing it from so many angles that when you finally did get this opportunity, now you're like positioned like, I've seen all of these things, right? Like I've been in the agricultural aspect of what we do. And now you're sitting there going, I see the whole view. It's almost like that, like a strong safety out on the field that's looking out and going, I could run this defense because I know I see the whole field. And, so a silver lining to maybe those challenges was it forced you to be a part of every aspect. And now you're sitting at the top going, I had the experience. I know I can see the direction we want to head.
Yeah, it's very clear to me. The plan's very clear, and it's just I don't own the company. That's the problem I have. So, until that changes, I'm sort of stuck. So, but yeah, it's clear. It's not rocket science. I mean, it doesn't, especially after this much time being here, it's very clear. So, I try to do what, we try to do what we can as a company, but there's some unrealistic expectations or limitations that the family puts on the business, just purely because of, I think, fear and control. So,
on the opposite side of the challenge, you also have just that history of trial and error, though, that's pretty incredible. Like whether it's documented or it's just verbal stories. You guys have been through so many cycles of marketing, gimmicks and promotions and all kinds of things that, like, I find that pretty fascinating how you guys could fill a building up with all those stories, I'm sure, with all the employees over the years and stuff about remember that time we tried this idea and that,
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, and it's fun and I think there's plenty more to do. And
absolutely,
those are kind of like those fun failures. I think they're lower cost now than they were in the past even. So, but we, there's restrictions on doing some of that right now too. So, but like looking back, we've done some dumb things, but it was, you get them out of the way, you try them, you think it might work. If it doesn't, on to the next thing. But, there's some lore around it, definitely. I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm looking across our old cans from over the years and some bad packaging. We had a gold packaging for like 10 years that I think my sister later found. She said, yeah, this is in a graphic design or a branding book in college that this is what you don't do. So I was like, all right, we carried it for 10 years, and we didn't do that well in those 10 years. So yeah, maybe we won't do that again. So and it was a result of some studies that said, yeah, this will appeal more to women and this and that. So we're going to make it golder and change the logo and all that. And once we changed back from that, we've never considered that perspective again.
On the flip side, you have a fanatical baseline that kind of, to have a business that has survived through all that. And yeah, there are a lot of challenges, but the perseverance that has gone through and the ability to generationally build upon each of those kind of foundational pieces, year after year. And I think in addition to that, anytime you work with, and we talked about this before with like beer and wine and things like that, people, it's a commodity product at the baseline of what it is to what the consumer understands. A peanut's a peanut. You got to get to a deeper layer and understand what the unique characteristic differentials are and things like that. And I think anytime someone can sustain a business and grow a business, as long as you guys have on a product based on the branding and then building a unique proposition, for example, as far as how to get consumers on there, is impressive no matter what. So that's amazing. So especially come from a generational business thing where everything didn't fall apart. You guys still, even though you've had your issues, you're still a family unit and a family enterprise.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, the from the product side of it, I'm thankful that no one's replicated our product yet. I know there are a lot of attempts in the past, and then there's things that aren't that different than what we offer, but putting that with the brand and really creating that experience for our customer and still, constantly hearing stories of people's frame of reference with beer nuts of this event or with this family member or going to the bar with the grandpas when I was here. And, it's fun to hear those. But in my mind, it always triggers okay, how do we create those? I don't want to hear about you going to the bar with your grandpa and having beer nuts. I want to hear about you at the bar eating beer nuts. Like, how do we move those on to the next generation? So, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. We're still around, and despite the challenges, we're very thankful to have been able to sustain our business this long and our family. So,
absolutely.
On that line of competition, recently in some years, you've seen kind of like, those commercials, like even during the Super Bowl for, for like pistachios and some of this other stuff that maybe like, and for me, it's not something that I necessarily recognized or I saw before. Do you find that like that brought more attention to the snacks that you're offering, or, you know what I mean? Like there is that thought that, the rising tide raises all ships. Do you find that those other companies spending money and drawing people into it being more than just a snack, like maybe there's a health value to it, or maybe there's some sort of benefit, physically, or, it's not just a fried potato chip, you know what I mean? Like having these other companies really spending millions of dollars to come into this segment and really making a push. Did you find that was helpful for you guys? Or do you find now we got to spend this money, or, what? I guess where did you land when you starting to see these other people spending millions of dollars on Super Bowl ads?
My immediate reaction is like a knife to the chest, but that's just a reaction. But my logical or my thought out reaction is, yes, this is good. This is good for our segment of the snack business, and especially it's good for our brand when Planters ties their product to beer. That's good for us. Can I quantify it directly? No. But I want to bring that connection to consumers of drinking beer and eating peanuts or eating a mixed product. But I think I'll take it as a win for our segment. And I'm always, people say, who's your biggest competitor? It's Planters, and I said, no. Oh, it's all snack foods. We compete for share of stomach, and so if we can bring the consumer to a smaller segment, I think we've got a better chance of winning for that share of stomach. So,
Andy, man, that's I love that statement you just made. We're not competing against other nut companies. We're competing against snacks, because that really is when the consumer's going into the store, they have so many snack options. You're not trying to say, oh, I'm looking for that peanut consumer, or I'm looking for that nut consumer. I'm looking for that snack consumer. Right. And I think that's a really, really important point, is that, you're trying to capture the snack eater. You're not, you know what I mean? So and just thinking about it now, like any snack commercials, right? Like you're looking at, or any sort of advertising, you're looking for, hey, how do I capture that consumer? How do I get that? How am I getting better shelf placement not in the peanut aisle, in the snack aisle, or you know what I mean? Like that's a really interesting thought that I don't necessarily think you know what I mean? Like, because when you're talking about beer, you're like, I'm competing against other breweries, or when I'm talking about, you know, vodkas, we're talking about, well, we're looking for the vodka drinker. You're looking for the snack consumer, not just the nut consumer. So really, it's a smart way of thinking about it.
Thanks.
I have the softball question, I guess, here being that being that beer nuts is the brand and everything like that. Have you guys ever, and this is, I do not know the answer to this, ever collaborated with a brewery for some co-branding type of things?
Yeah, and it's there's actually we've done a beer under the radar with a local brewery, and we're experimenting with another one right now. So with our product in the beer. As far as collaborations go, we've, you know, it actually came up in our quarterly meeting yesterday. We got into ABC Liquors because of a Miller connection promotion we did, you know, 15, 20 years ago with NASCAR and Miller Lite and our product. But I do, you know, it's very clear, you know, there's some restrictions that have prevented us, or even in my case, an unwillingness to do some of the obvious collaborations in the past 10 years because of some of the headaches that it would create internally from the family perspective. So it's, you know, there's too much risk for ownership, or too much wanting to control the process, which makes it, you know, not helpful. So yeah, I think, you know, we've missed plenty, but we've done a few in the past, but it only goes back to big brand, pre-craft, you know, dominance. So but yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities ahead of us if we can change our thinking.
When you guys are looking at different retail opportunities and things like that, and I'm sure you're in a majority of those, the big ones and things like that, but what is kind of the target demographic and placement that you kind of look for? Do you want to be near the beer, or do you want to kind of be near the beer and also with the planters and things like that, as if you can get both opportunities, and kind of who's your target kind of consumer and such?
Yeah, we'd like to be everywhere, right? But yeah, ideally, it's if we can be near beer, and we'll do pretty well. But at the same time, if we can be near our competition, especially with our you know, our snack mixes, we do pretty well, just because we try to go a little more premium than just, you know, bready belly filler. So yeah, so yes to both, or all, and any, you know, we're an impulse product. We always say we're not on anybody's shopping list, so they're not. We've got to be near the beer. It's great to be slotted on shelf, but if we're on an end cap, we move really quick. And that's in and outs have always driven our, you know, built our business for the repetitive customers going to pull us off the shelf down the road. So, but yeah, if we can be by the beer, we're gonna do just fine. So.
Andy, I have a collab for you, and I'm sure you haven't thought about it. And I love, in pretty much every podcast, to bring fish into it in some way. It's kind of like it's part of my longest relationship. But for kids on tour, and they're snacking, and like this, and they're camping, and they're looking for easy travelable snacks, I think this is like a match made in heaven. I think we find some sort of way that, and if you do it, I'm going to trademark it right now, so it's on this podcast.
Okay.
But having like some sort of like jam band tour where you guys are, you know what I mean? Like, you have these people traveling across the country following bands. Like, what a better opportunity to have like the snack that these people are choosing while they're camping and on tour, and sustaining some protein and keeping them going. It's beer nuts, man, and paired with, obviously, they're drinking all tour. It seems natural to me, but
are we in the middle of a job interview right now, or what?
We got it. That's why I was a little TM right there. I got that collab is mine.
I agree. I think that's got some legs. We can definitely figure that out. Yeah, we're you know, we think our product feeds the fun, so it's as long as people are gathering, having a good time, you know, we like to be around that. So
I mean, in that same line, do you guys like look for fun collabs? Like, because a lot of breweries, when we're talking to them, they're looking for that fun collab. There's a local one here that paired with like a hot dog company, and they made a red ale and a white ale, because I got a red hot dog and a white hot dog. And like, you know, or like Abbott, or like we had a frozen custard that paired with a brewery, and they did like a frozen custard stout. You know, do you guys look, or even are you brought opportunities to do some fun collabs that might be outside of like the natural, or the kind of the straight line thinking?
Yeah, we're brought plenty. We haven't executed on as many as I'd like, but you know, and I have a lot of envy of the beer industry for that, because it's just it's part of the DNA. But you know, we've done things with we had Beer Nuts ice cream for a while, going back a number of years, which is fantastic. I'm trying to think. Let me think of some others, but there's been a few over the years, but not enough. It's unfortunately the short answer.
Yeah.
Were there any retailers that have surprised you that weren't necessarily like a grocery or a liquor store or anything like that kind of picked up your product and went with it? It just kind of, the question sparked me with Church and talking about the outdoors and stuff like that. Like if you find like a retailer that pops and runs with your brand.
So my favorite recent one is Menards. It's a Midwest hardware company, and we over 5-6 years really exploded with them, and I shop at Menards. We have one here in town, and I'd go there and I was like, there's food here, and so it's like, apparently I haven't been going to the back of the store, but they sell a ton of food, and
nice.
Appropriately sell a ton of beer nuts as well. So that's one of the kind of the fun ones. But even places like we're in like Home Goods, or when talking to an outdoor store, I was trying to think of one out in Colorado. I can't think of it offhand, but just constantly selling tubs of bar mix. So it's those are fun, because again, it goes back to the experience of people gathering, drinking a little bit, and having some good snacks, and that's where we like to be.
I remember, it's interesting you said about Menards too. I mean, I when I used to work with Sprecher Brewery, their sodas actually was one of their top accounts. The last year I was working with them were Ace Hardware stores.
Okay.
True Value, I think it was. So it was interesting that you had said that it was the same thing they had said about there's a sneaky, surprising amount of snacks and beverages that are bought in those hardware stores.
Right. Yeah. Well, Menards has a pretty expansive footprint for it. Again, Ace and True Value, I think, very limited, but ton of volume. So
absolutely.
And I think it's Ace. I think we're trying to get back into Ace right now. So
nice. Very nice.
Excellent. I mean, that's like you think about Bass Pro Fishing, you know what I mean, or a shop like that. I mean, you could get like freeze dried ice cream. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't that be? You know what I mean? But it's not a typical spot where you'd go, oh, where are we going to sell? And you think liquor stores and grocery and all this other stuff. But I mean, camping stores probably would generate just as much. You know what I mean? Like in those sections with displays. It's such a this product could be anywhere, right? Because it fits in so many different realms, or just kind of niches, that there's at Ace Hardware store, these guys, construction workers, are going in to pick up a couple of drill bits. I don't have time to stop for lunch. Let me grab a mix. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's just, or you're going camping, you got to get something for the kids, or you're going to the grocery store and this is for lunches. I mean, it really does fit in so many different avenues that there's got to be an opportunity for some fun collabs in there, Andy. I'm going to brainstorm for you.
I'd agree, and I'm interested. So send it my way, please. So, yeah. And going back to Cabela's or
Menards.
The Bass Pro Shops or anything.
Bass Pro, that was it. Yeah. And we've been in there at times, not every day right now, but yeah, it product moves. And campers are natural customers. Campers, people doing home improvement or going to a job site, seems to just always picking up our product.
The last question for me on this end is on the e-commerce side of things. You guys do a lot of direct shipping to consumers and then retail, things like that. Did you experience the same shift as everybody else did the past couple of years with, and then how did that kind of affect your business, being that I assume was majority wholesale leading into that, and then to kind of bring that proportional, internal logistics, into the mix? I'm sure it brought its complications.
Yeah, it did, but the complications came because the volume took off all of a sudden.
No, exactly, and justifiable. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but we were pretty well positioned, I thought, from, we fulfill here direct to consumer from anything on our website and then we're selling through Amazon and everybody else. And yeah, we saw a huge pickup as the pandemic started and has continued. But we're getting to the point where we're in such a tight labor market here. We've got the Rivian car factory is here in town, and it's just sucked a lot of good people to car manufacturing from food manufacturing. We also have a Ferrero plant here. And so we've now outsourced or moving it off site just because it's it's a little more efficient than trying to staff it ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
anything we can outsource or automate, we're trying to do right now. But yeah, we've continued to see that grow. The volume continues to grow, and the opportunity as well. I think we're underutilizing the channel still. I think we're fortunate to have a strong customer base that's super loyal and looking for us. But I think we can, there's more opportunity to grow in that space than the speed we're at. So
is there something you were like, that I didn't see, that I took a shot and man, I was hopeful and it worked? Or if you're like, just focus on the negative, you'd be like, man, I shouldn't have hit that decision right there.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, generally speaking. So, but I'm not one to look back at and remember my losses or my misses. So, from like say we took a big swing at Walmart that's paid off for years, but
Awesome.
That's not I don't think that's the best one. My favorite big swing is really organizational, and it's internal. We moved to the EOS model, and that's been the most transformational part of, I think, our business in the last 4 years. So taking a risk and something that we didn't know a ton about, and
Sure.
it's changed our people and our process, but it's allowed us to move a lot faster. We're better positioned for the pandemic, and we're just continuing to accelerate our operations as we look to the future. So that might be a crummy answer for this podcast.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But
No, it does. Yeah, no, that's exactly a really good answer, because sometimes we focus on just kind of the fun stuff, but when we talk about operational and making a decision that you were like, man, I don't know, this is a risk, and it paid off. That's structure. That's kind of really to the heart of what we're talking about here. So I think that's a great answer.
Okay. Well, it was hard in the middle of the transition because some people weren't into it, some were, and the ones you thought were going to be great, you had to let go or left. And but looking back, it's been incredible. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Andy, hey, thank you again so much. And everybody, make sure you look out there at your next liquor store, grocery store, hardware store, wherever it is. Look for beer nuts and grab yourself a pack and take them home and enjoy.
Hey,
thank you.
store.
Thanks again. Take care, Andy. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
You
Have
too,
a good one.
guys. See ya. Thanks.